Hello, beloveds, and welcome to the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Reverend Sally Bartholomew. I'm a licensed minister with the Centers for Spiritual Living, and I am here to welcome you to our midweek oasis, the Wednesday night service. You might be asking yourself, what is Wednesday night service oasis? Well, it's a place where we come together as a community to be spiritually refreshed between Sundays. Most Wednesday night services build upon the theme of the previous Sunday. And last Sunday, oh my goodness, Reverend Sunshine introduced ideas inspired by the talk title of What Lies Beneath the Surface. And this evening, Dodie Chaney Fernandes and Deborah Jackson will be adding their ideas to this weekly theme. Now, we present our Wednesday night services in a satsang style, building off the principles and the practices shared during the previous Sunday, with the intention that these gatherings, this evening's gathering, that it be informal, that it be intimate, and that it be interactive. The annual theme for Centers for Spiritual Living is Living Out Loud. And this month, February, the theme is Curiosity as our superpower. Now, I'd like to take a couple minutes to see if we have any new people online, and it looks like we may have some new people online this evening. Well, I want to say welcome. If you are new to our community, whether you're here this evening or watching this video later on, please navigate yourself to our homepage, www.oaklandcsl.org. Click on the I'm New icon, and then look in the lower left-hand corner of that page to submit your email so that we could send you the Village News. It's a weekly newsletter that we send out once a week, and it has all the information on what's happening at the center in the coming weeks. Now, before we get into our service, there's a couple of housekeeping notes. I'd like to ask that you mute your audio and you turn off your video during the program until we say, go ahead and turn on your video and unmute yourself so that you can interact during the program. And I invite you to stay tuned all the way through to the end of service to receive some special and important announcements. Now, this evening, I am really juiced. I'm over the moon about introducing these two beloveds that are coming up. We have Dodie Chaney Fernandes, who is an emeritus practitioner at the center, and Deborah Jackson, who is also an emeritus member of the center. Both have been very active at the center, and we are in for a treat to hear from them this evening. So before we do anything, we start with prayer, and I'd like to turn it over to Dodie to start us off with prayer, and then Deborah will lead us into the talk. Thank you.
Accepting and knowing that there is only one life, that life is God, that life is everywhere present, expressing in all things at all times. And that includes right here now. So joyously, we're open to the receiving this wonderful time together and know that the truth is being revealed to us in ways that flows easy and effortlessly from us to us. Our hearts are filled with this knowledge, and we know that we know that as we're open and receptive to the flow of God's good, it reveals itself. And everything unfolds, unravels, manifests in a way that brings joy, peace, health, and happiness in and through this entire evening. For this and the more, I give thanks. Please affirm with me by saying, and so it is.
And so it is. Amen.
Deborah.
Thank you. Well, welcome to Black History Month. That's the first thing I want to say. And the other thing I want to say is Dodie and I are excited for this evening to tell you about what we have been doing for the last 3 years. We have been reading a book called Guidance for a Spiritual Journey. And we have been doing this with anywhere every day from 4 people to about 14 or 15 people, and it continues to grow. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Guidance for a Spiritual Journey. This is a book that was written by a person that we joyfully call Dr. Dan. But Dr. Dan is an African-American minister in religious science that wrote a devotional book. I wanted to give you a little bit of the backstory of how we started this group. I had been searching for years on written material in religious science by African-American people, and I couldn't find any. 5 years ago, I went to a seminar, and Dr. Tracy Brown, who is also a religious science practitioner from the Centers for Spiritual Living Church out of Texas, was doing a monthly group on Dr. Dan, an African-American man that had a devotional, and she wanted to know if I'd like to join. I said, excuse me, what did you just say? She said, you've not heard of Dr. Dan? I said, an African-American person who has written a book outside of Michael Beckwith in religious science? She said, yes, he was a minister out of Los Angeles, and he was at Guidance for a Spiritual Living, and for his congregation, he provided a devotional, and we read him monthly. I said, sign me up, I want to be there the next time. Well, I went through 5 years ago, a whole year of reading with Dr. Tracy Brown, Guidance for a Spiritual Living. And we would come together monthly and talk about the beauty of this book. I was so excited about this book, I turned it over and said, Reverend Sally, have you heard about this book called Guidance for a Spiritual Living? She said, no. I said, Sally, you got to get this book, and you and I can go and start reading it together. We, again, for a year, read Dr. Dan, and we would call each other and talk about what we received in this devotional. 3 years ago, Constance Chapman, Carmen West Jefferson, and our center had asked me to join their Black History team. And we started going through ideas of what we could present for Black history. I raised my hand. I said, I think for the month of February, we should highlight Dr. Dan. Constance nor Carmen were aware, and I said, oh, you have got to get this book. It is written by an African-American religious scientist, and it is a devotional that you can read every single day. And she said, let's do it. And then they turned to me and said, are you going to do it? I said, I think because I'm a layperson, I think I need to get a practitioner that will guide us through daily practices of Dr. Dan for the month of February, Black History Month. And they said, Carmen said, well, who do you think? I said, I know a person. Dodie Chaney Fernandes is an awesome practitioner. She is a phenomenal prayer, and I don't mind asking her if she would join with us to present guidance for a spiritual living for the month of February. I was shaking in my boots, but I wanted to introduce this book to the congregation, as well as to have us start doing a daily devotional with this person, because I had never had or been introduced to something so powerful. I'm stepping out here. And I go and I ask, Dodie, will you do a devotional, a noontime devotional for our congregation for the month of February in terms of Black history with this man, Dr. Dan? And she said, who? And so I said, Dodie, you got to do this book. She said, what do you want me to do? I said, I don't know, but however you want to do it, I'm with you. She said, okay, let me think about it. She came back, she said, yes. And we have been doing Dr. Dan for 3 years. Dodie, it is your turn.
Thank you, Deborah. It's true. I didn't know of Dr. Dan. And when Deborah told me about the book, I didn't even have it. Constance gave me her book to use during this month. And the month of February was so interesting to read it. So I had to set up some kind of formula so we can work this through. And I came up with, God is so good, that we would read what we call the sermon, which would be the main part, and we click it out. Then we had different people read the scripture. There's scripture in, and an affirmation. He has an author in it, and he has his own verbiage in the end. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. So I played with it, and everyone played with me in learning how to try and put this in place in a way that we can all get something from it. So we started it, and I did it for the first month, and they said, can you do it for people liked it? They want to continue. So they said, can you do it for a couple of weeks more? Well, I'm retired, but I also had a job, and I had shifted my clients around so that I would be available at 12 o'clock because we were supposed to do it for half an hour. And then when they said they wanted to expand, I said, well, I've already shifted them around. I can do it for a couple of weeks until you can find a replacement. But the interesting thing about it is that we got someone in place. I come as often as I can, and they consider me a loader because we have different people. They decided on this. We all did, to lead each day. So let me tell you about my experience with Dr. Dan. This has been an amazing, uplifting, strengthening growth for me. I love religious science. I love philosophy. I love the whole makeup of knowing that my life is one with God. And I really read a lot, and I do my Science of Mind books. I do 365. I'll read the monthly magazine just because I like that energy. That's how I have taken on Dr. Dan. I love what he has to say. And many times it's like, it's not as plain or as simple or as clear as to say something, but he puts it in a way that you want to figure out what he's saying here. So I think for me, I enjoyed the idea. Last month's information for January root and reboot, that's what feels like happens with Dr. Dan on a daily basis for me. And this month when it's saying what lies beneath the surface, this is excellent, Dr. Dan, because this is how he gives you information. And as we go through the book, it feels like you're prying yourself away from something you've been attached to that hasn't served you. And I say that to say, he actually makes you aware of the oneness of God. He makes you think about your position in this relationship. Now, I'll say this today. We say God is all that there is, that there's only one life, that life is my life. We say all of that. But for me, it allowed me to connect a little deeper than that. So when I say something like unconditional love, God is unconditional love, he somehow has me think about it differently. So when I'm thinking about unconditional love, we all know what that means. Hey, no matter, I love you unconditionally. No, it's deeper than that. When you think about unconditional love, you should think about kindness, gentleness, warmth, understanding, tolerance. You have to open up unconditional love so that it's not just a word, it's an activity, it's a feel. And if you do that, you shift. I say that to say many times, like all of us, grew up with whatever environment we had, but you've always had to be not in control, but watch yourself. And oftentimes I use the term, keep your dukes up. You know, you're like on guard a lot. And when you're on guard, you've already put yourself in a bind, in that you got that way by being judgmental, being angry, unforgiving, not trusting. You get that. I got to take care of me, my humanness, in a way that it can cause many times in Dr. Dan, and in many of the religious science books too, it talks about the circuit. We actually block our own circuit. We do different things unconscious, and I mean unconscious, not subconscious. Unconsciously, we do things to block the circuit of the divine. God is good, God is love, God is all that. And we are one with God. So in order to be about that, you have to let go of that other stuff. And if you're able to let some of it go, it allows more room for the circuit to be open, for the goodness of God to flow in and through your life. And it's the same thing as you struggle to try to do whatever you're doing. We oftentimes just be up against it and really want to resolve this. We're giving it all we got. But with Dr. Dan, and religious science does it too, you are to, and I used to quote, pray without ceasing. Now, don't get, oh no, I don't have time to pray. I mean, it doesn't work like that. What happens is to pray without ceasing is as easy as, you know, on Sunday, at the end of service, they'll say, do you have someone you want to pray for? Just say their name. That's how it is. It's the recognition of God in that instant. And you can do it constantly. And the truth be told, when you get started doing it, you like it so well, you do it with ease. So all the time, Dr. Dan is telling you all of these things that have maybe, I don't want to say stifle your growth, but you haven't had the joy that you pray for, that you want. And it might be because you or me, I'm doing my own blocking by judgmental, resentment, anger, unforgiveness, all of those things. That's not of God. And your charge is to be open and receptive to the presence and power of God. You know, I really think if Ernest Holmes or Dr. Dan were speaking right now, what they would say is, we talk about streaming, that we need to be, we should, for our life to be as connected with God, streaming God. And if we recognize we're streaming God, the energy of the God power and the God presence reveals itself. So I know that as we continue to read Dr. Dan, and we've been over it, we've been doing it for 3 years now. This is our 3rd year, really. But the people that come, we talk about it. We see if we can get some definition on some of this stuff, that because he talks different. And I have to say this too. We did this he was African-American writer, but it's okay. I didn't have a problem with that. And I didn't know whether it was anything in here specifically for African-American. But if you read this whole book, I think there may be 3 or 4 sermons in it that for me, I can see a brother in it. I can see that part. But the rest of it is just talking about life and how we have an opportunity to have a more full, satisfying, happy experience. And it's on us. It's something we can do. And it always he says that we're not waiting on God. God is waiting on us. So there's an opening there, in some of the books it talks about the flow of the Spirit, or the Spirit expressing in us, through us, as us. This energy that I've recognized through the Dr. Dan process is everywhere present, revealing itself constantly. And the term, get your bloated nothingness out of the way, it can do that. You can allow yourself to be free or moved in a different space, and everything changes. Like the word beauty. Life is beautiful. Well, we say that, but some of it ain't beautiful to us. But if you open up beautiful, you have to open these words up to allow them to be as with depth to them. It D-E-P-T, depth. It goes deep. So life is beautiful. Plants are beautiful. Trees are beautiful. All of this, it becomes more real than just a word. You can do it with all of the God qualities that come to your mind. Peace, the peace that passes all understanding. It's a joy to be able to recognize, and oftentimes you see this when you elevated someplace and you look out across the hillside or whatever. The world looks so peaceful and still, and that's the kind of energy you want to come out of your peace, out of your word peace. Allow it to be alive. And the same thing is with everything else, even joy, like joy. Dr. Dan says, and I thought this is really interesting. I think I've said it before. He says, happiness is not an event. And that's so cute. That's so good, because sometimes we're happy and we're not paying attention to the fact that I'm happy, because it's not an event. It's just, but life is alive. It's thrilling. And it gives to you what you give to it. And it's open to you as you're open to it. So Dr. Dan, just reading these every day and meeting with people, I've gotten so, I actually love to meet with the Dr. Dan group, and I'm not able to come every single day, but I come as often as I can because I like the energy. I like the way he's stressed out what we can do individually, make our life more fulfilling. I wrote out a lot of stuff, but this is how I feel. So I'm just sharing it with you so that if you're interested, in pursuing some of the stuff that he said, it will allow you to move past some of the blockages that you don't recognize that you, quote, are doing to yourself. You don't have to be stressed and worried and angry and disappointed. God knows everything. So the more we're open to the realization that we're one with God, that God is our life, and we really believe that, we're able to get through whatever ups and downs we go through.
Thank you, Dodie. And I want to bring it forward in terms of in the book itself. It also in the forward of the book, and I'm just going to take a minute to read this. And it says, if you do not find in religion a fresh vision of heaven as joyousness, delve deeper. Probe beneath your solemn view of theology to a radiance of new birth. And then he goes on in the foreword to say, in this book, a daily practice which used diligently will lead the reader to a higher consciousness and therefore a greater experience of life's joy. And so that's what we do every day, is absolutely delve deeper in ourselves to remove those blocks and make sure that we excavate that to the joy that we're all seeking. Dr. Dan daily tells us every day that we are more powerful than we know, that there is nothing that we can't do, because the word impossible really means I am possible. And Dr. Dan washes us with it on a daily basis. He also goes on to say in his introduction, it says, a personal observation, this sense is derived from a personal observation that people are generally willing to accept far less of the good life that is my conviction that is readily available to them and the willing taker. My job is then to feed the willing taker, as well as suggest and recommend to the newcomer, I hope, appealing ways to come aboard. Dr. Dan consistently allows us to know that we are the light that we've been looking for, but we have to go inside and take a look at who we are and what we are that we want to become and go to that. A couple of weeks ago, Reverend Michelle taught us about the continuum. Dr. Dan tells us to look forward all the time, not look back, but forward. And he consistently allows us, I love this awesome man, he consistently allows us to know that we are greater and we have to dig deeper and excavate ourselves to become the people we really want to be in peace, in joy, and in love. I'd like to put up today's reading because I think it spoke so profoundly about that. And I have told everyone that February is love letters to ourselves. And so, Peter, will you put up the daily reading for today, which is February the 8th? Thank you. And it says in there, and it just opens up to let us know on February the 8th, and living in the light, what is so profound about that, and I think we'll close with this, is its affirmation. I enter the silence of my soul to continue with you. Give me a deep consciousness of your divine indwelling place. Relieve me from all fretfulness, anxiety, and impatience. Keep me from all hesitancy and fear. Create in me a newborn longing for you and for service to you. Let's just take that in for the moment. Let us just recognize and take a look at how are we living in the light. Dodie?
And Dr. Dan always has a statement at the end of his talk. So today it says, the spirit of life is the spirit of knowledge and of wisdom. Wisdom is light. So I thank everybody for coming, and I hope that you were able to hear the energy, the vitality, the joy that we get from Dr. Dan, and that you not only are interested in reading the book, but you'll recognize there's a total shift in your beingness. And one of Dr. Dan's lessons, he said, when you study and you move through life, sometimes your friends or they can hardly recognize you, and you can hardly recognize yourself. So it's true. Anyway, I guess we're open.
Yes, we now want to open it up to everyone. And those of you who have absolutely experienced Dr. Dan, we invited many of our people here tonight. We would like to hear from you as well. And the first hand that is up, Reverend Sunshine.
I wanted to get in here first just to say how proud I am of this community. I want to tear up. You know, it's really a sweet thing. Let me just bear with me for a second. I want to lower this hand. Okay, bear with me. So in the early 80s, I was a student of Dr. Dan at Guidance Church in Los Angeles. And I was solid in that community, just like Deborah and Dodie are solid in OCSL. And he was charismatic. He was easy on the eye. And he was eloquent. I mean, you know, I could listen to him all day. And then I relocated back to the Bay Area where I was born. And I landed at First Church of Religious Science, which is now OCSL. Follow me though. So this is my third tour here at OCSL because I did a lot of years there, did my prac training and stuff. I went away, I came back when it was OCSL. I went away again, and now I'm back as the senior minister. Wait, but with this study group that I keep hearing about, I can't go anywhere without somebody saying the Dr. Dan group. So I listened to Spirit, who touched me and said, have Dodie and Deborah talk about, for Black History Month, this book and this whole thing. So you see how this has come all the way full circle. It's a fan club here. And it's so beautiful to behold. And lastly, I'll just say, please notice that on Sundays, we have 2 readings. Usually we have Ernest Holmes. For Black History Month, I was led to, instead of Ernest Holmes, we love Ernie, love him, he's our founder. Yes. Instead, this month, the quote starts off with something from Dr. Dan for that day. So it's a Dr. Dan Fest. I'm so pleased and honored to have you. You all did a fabulous job. And I just wanted to jump in there first and say, oh, now we can have some discussion.
Thank you, Reverend Sunshine.
Okay, great. Dorothy, go ahead.
Hi, congratulations to Dodie and to Deborah. You guys were absolutely wonderful. But I also want you to remind people that even if they don't have the book, that they can join you all at 12 o'clock because the message is being read to you. So you don't actually have to have the book. You just show up and you will get what you want from this wonderful. I can't be there every day, but I try my best to be there as much as I can. And I just want to say thank you, Dodie, and thank you, Deborah, for bringing this to us at any time. Doesn't have to be Black History. It has to be any time. Okay, thank you. Love you both. Bye.
Love you back.
Complete.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, I had my hand up.
Oh. Lisa, go ahead. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I want to say hats off to Dodie and Deborah for this marvelous presentation, this event. So deep and rich. I am one of the Dr. Danners. Yay! Not always present every day, but what I like is that this journey offers an awakening, an awareness, and a rebirth of spirituality.
Yes.
And the fact that each of us comes from a different religious background. So we have different information to share and offer. And that I find is really exciting because we get to share what we've learned from our own religious upbringing and how some of us have converted to religious science. And I was I was a member of the AME Zion African American Episcopal Church. That's where I grew up. But what I have done is merge some of my Christian beliefs with religious science. And it's like it's married and it works out for me. It absolutely works out for me because the truth is the truth. And we're about truth and learning and growing and sharing. And it's amazing what we discover about each other. And it's just fabulous. And I'm just so glad that I have learned about Dr. Dan and what we all have gained through this journey. And it is a wonderful spiritual journey. And as Dodie said, it's broken down in segments from the sermon to the end. And it's just so interesting. We all have different interpretations, and then we feed on that and add to it. And it's a growth experience. It's a learning and growth experience. And we all are striving for a higher consciousness. And this book and its teachings is certainly allowing us to grow to a higher state of consciousness. And also, we have studied about fear and faith, and most of us have learned about fear and faith and so forth. But also there's another element called trust. You can have the faith, but you have to trust. And I apply that to myself because I'm going through a different journey, another journey as well. So for me, it's trust and know. Trust and know. And we know that relative to fear, sometimes we have to go through fear to overcome it. We must go through the fear to overcome it. And we just learn a lot through this Dr. Dan journey. I love it. And I'm so happy that Dodie and Deborah presented Dr. Dan to us. And so I'll just say thank you. And I'm complete.
Thank you, Lisa. Constance, go ahead.
Well, I was a Dr. Danner for many years, for over a year, I guess. It's when I was working at home, when we were still shut down and the office wasn't open. I've been thinking about this, that I could go from my work to Dr. Dan and back to work, and it seemed more seamless. Now that I'm back in the office, there's something different. I get too far into my left brain to get into Dr. Dan. It's hard for me to drop into Dr. Dan and then drop back out, particularly because usually the discussions are so rich, they go over. So when you're reading Dr. Dan, if you come across any things in any of his talks and sermons that would help me bridge that so that I could get back into Dr. Dan, I would very much appreciate it.
All right.
Okay. It's a challenge. Thank you.
Anyone else?
This is Sabrina. Hi.
Sabrina.
I too am a Dr. Danner. And I feel very fortunate because I work 3 days in San Francisco and 2 days at home. And the beauty of when I'm in San Francisco, sometimes I just have Dr. Dan in the background. And I just send a chat saying, I'm in the office, can't talk. And I get fed and I'm ready to go back to work. And when I can talk, what I really love about Dr. Dan is I feel like I'm speaking things into existence. I know that God is, I am, and that whatever I'm saying when I'm talking about Dr. Dan, I am speaking it into existence. So it's just been such a beautiful practice for me. And I thank you both so very, very much for bringing Dr. Dan to OCSL and for bringing it here tonight. Great presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina. Sally, go ahead.
Well, I also want to say thank you so much for bringing Dr. Dan alive to all of us. And yes, I am a Dr. Danner. And as Deborah said early on, when we first started this journey with each other, and we would read whatever the writing was for the day, and I'd find myself either texting or picking up the phone saying, Deborah, did you read what Dr. Dan said today? Because it was so transformative for me. And now the opportunity for us to come together on a daily basis as often as we can, because I don't know how many of us make it every day, but we make it as often as we can, to come together and really dive deeply into what he has to say and what it resonates within our own lives at this point in time. I think that's what makes it so rich for me, is almost every time I'm there, he says something that I can apply to my life today that is uplifting, that recenters me in spirit, so that I know that God is, I am, and all is well. And I put in the chat one of our, what we call our Gradyisms, because the wisdom nugget, the savory moment came from Grady, and it's acknowledge what I see. So there may be conditions out there in the world right now that I see that I don't like, but I'm going to trust in what I know.
Yeah.
And so that's what Dr. Dan gives us. Thank you, beloveds.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I'm not sure who the phone number 510, is that Grady?
It's me.
Another Dr. Dan.
It's me, and it's difficult to maybe put it into words. It's something special every single day, and there's all this noise and in the world and distractions and so forth. And Dodie invented an expression called "remember to remember." So I find myself when I'm living, even when I'm not in the Dr. Dan session, but I'm just going about living my life. If I go, it's easier for me to stay on the path. If I stray, I know it. I can correct in the moment. It seems to get, by doing this practice, it gets easier for me. It's that I'm more in the flow of things. And so that it really is kind of fine tuning or cultivating consciousness. I think if I'm going to try to put it into words, it's wonderful. I think it's possible to do the reading, but when we read together, you get the opportunity to hear somebody reading it out loud, and that adds another quality to it. And we go through, each of the sections, we get a chance to share, to bounce things off of one another, and to explore and the meaning of things and the words and the Bible verses and so forth. It's a wonderful experience, and I'm so grateful to have it. And I love it. It's like maybe more like an obsession for me. I love it, and I want to be there as much as I can be. And I'm grateful, to Dodie and to Deborah for introducing anybody else who had any hand in introducing this, because it is a gift, and I look forward to it every day. And I go as often as I can. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ray.
I love my wisdom partners there, and I call it my Dr. Dan family. Thank you.
That's right. Great.
Thank you, Grady.
Reverend Deb, go ahead.
You're muted.
You're muted, dear. You're still muted.
Okay, I think that works now.
Yep, that's it.
So I am not a Dr. Danner, but not yet. So it's like, but this has been very insightful for me. So thank you both for what you brought up, it's like your presentation for this. And even as you were reading the affirmation, I had to take a screenshot, I had to take a picture of what was there for today. And it really resonated with me. It's like, especially there's a part that's in there that says, keep me from all hesitancy and fear. And it's like, and it kind of goes back to that moving your bloated nothingness out of the way. So it's like, for me to get out of my way of that I'm wanting to create. And so this was a great example, because today I've been processing for the past couple of days a few things. And when something is for you and it's presented to you, and it's like, and this was like right here in my face. Yeah. So thank you for that, for just your presentation today. I'm buying the book, okay? So just to let you know. And it's like, but because of the time difference, I'm not sure, if I could jump on a 12 o'clock or anything, but this is really good. So thank you for this. I appreciate this and appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Reverend Judith, then Paul.
And it's not Reverend Judith, but
okay, whatever.
Dr. Judith.
I'll take it. And I agree. And first of all, your presentation was like, I thought, well, we could just get off now, because it was each one of you were so complete in everything that you gave the feeling tone of it, and you gave the heart of it. And I'm so grateful for that. And it kind of reminds me, Dr. Margaret once said that that every day she had every week she had to think of 100 ways to say the same thing. And that's what it is. It's science of mind galore.
Yeah.
In Dr. Dan. And it's and things that I may have had a question about, from reading Ernest. I get some explanation here that an understanding and a deeper understanding, and every day I go deeper. And it has allowed me to release some things that needed releasing in my life. And so I am so grateful for it. And one of the things that he does is in the affirmation, or sometimes in the sermon part at the top, he gives a list of things to do. And so this was on my birthday on the 29th. In the affirmation, I declare poise, peace, power, plenty, and radiance, all of which encompasses me round about. And so all of his lists that I come across, they give me something to take with me every day. There's always something that I can go through my day, and whatever's going on, there's something that I take with me from that day's reading, and it goes with me in the same way that God is with me. So anyway, I'm grateful. I'm done.
Okay, great. Paul, go ahead.
Well, hello, strangers. It's so good to see everybody, and
Good to see you.
I'm grateful. I want to read the last couple of sentences from Living in the Light today. Well, each of us, therefore, this is Dr. Dan in his sermon. This is his words. While each of us, therefore, has depressed hours, none of us needs to be a depressed person. Live in the light. No mood need be your master. That just gives you a little essence of what he presents for us to think about. And I'm lifted. As you all know, I went through a potential health challenge and had to step away from my leadership. But I've been part of this. I'm sorry, I got a big DD on my chest that says Dr. Danner. And I've been with it since the last day of the 1st February. So that makes me a 3-year alum. I need to share with you that when I was on the leadership team, and before Reverend Sunshine or I, Reverend Jerry supported us to do this, as well as Constance, when we had the ELT, the ecclesiastical leadership team. And they allowed us to extend it. And it's been a church supported event. And I just am eternally grateful that our center supports this type of activity. It's a class, it's a community thing, it's a workshop, it's a sermon, it's everything all rolled into one. We have nothing, I've never experienced anything at our center as enriching as this has. And of course, big kudos to fabulous presentation of Deborah and Dodie today. And a little side story to close on. When I had to make my exit from the center to prepare for my procedure and the recovery from that, Reverend Sunshine prayed with me. And then she said, Paul, what do you want? What can I do for you to help you through this circumstance you're going through? I'm your, I want to be there for you. And I said, please keep the Dr. Dan going. It wasn't like, go down and get me a couple of you can drop off some vegan casseroles. No, it wasn't that. Or you can do my, pick up my laundry for me. I won't be able to go get it. It was, please keep the Dr. Dan going. So I want to honor not only Dodie and Deborah for bringing this to us, but our center's leadership team that had the wherewithal to support this activity. It's almost renegade in a way,
but it's really lovely. And it has not only helped me when I was on the leadership team to deepen my religious science awareness, but it also helped me through a very critical time in my life that I never thought I would have to experience. So I'm just grateful to everyone for allowing us to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Grady, go ahead, unmute yourself.
Who did
This
you
is
ask?
Eliza.
There you go.
Oh, this is Eliza. I figured out by accident one day, if you're just on the phone line, you can raise your hand by pushing *9. So anyway, that's what I did. So I'm a recent Dr. Danner. I wanted to do this from the very beginning, but it conflicted with my work schedule. And now I'm able to come at least twice a week, sometimes more. And I'm just grateful that there was this consistency and persistency on the behalf of Deborah and Dodie, that, you know, after a month, people said, oh, please, let's continue. And they said, yes. They said, yes, let's continue. And so when I came in, they had already gone through this book, you know, 2 or 3 times on some of the dates. And I feel like, you know, Reverend Joan used to talk about the geese, and the geese in the front, and then the geese in the back would kind of go on they'd have that energy, the flying energy from the geese in the front. They would get like like floating on the wake of a boat, you know. Anyway, that's what I feel like. I'm on the wake of these people. I got a head start because they'd already gone through this. And it's, you know, I don't always agree with everything that I read in Dr. Dan, but I so appreciate people explaining things to me, and then I might shift. And it's just helped me. I've done, you know, I didn't come from any religious background. I never go to church ever, you know, maybe once or twice with my Oma. But my mother said, you're the most spiritual one of all of us, you know. And I really appreciate this group, and just being, it helps me with the things that I learned as a practitioner. When I come to this Dr. Dan group, I remember to remember.
Yeah.
And so it's just, it's not easy to just do this on your own, to be a person living a spiritual life. And this 1 hour, Monday through Friday, well, it's half an hour, but sometimes it goes 1 hour. Anyway, this time that we spend together Monday through Friday, it helps me to remember. And just hearing the different points of view of, I really feel safe to share my point of view. And I just know that everybody is encouraged to join in. You know, if someone hasn't spoken, the host might ask that person, did you want to share with something? And it's been very helpful for me to be reminded of these science of mind principles that we all are attracted to and want to use in our lives to have a better life. So thank you, everyone. And thank you, Deborah, for giving us a little bit of the history of how the group got going, and Reverend Sunshine telling us too about her learning with Dr. Dan. That is all. As we say in the group, I'm complete.
Great. Thanks, Eliza. Reverend Jerry.
Of course, I know we're short on time, but I consider myself a Dr. Danner because I started with you all. I love the process. I am so grateful for what you've provided this evening. And I know that this is a beautiful spiritual journey, and that we all can continue to live in the light as we move through this process. And I love the fact that you're reading it in the next year and the next year, because, you know, we bring our new selves to it. So there's something to glean out of anything that we've read before. So I just want to appreciate you both for this beautiful work that you're doing, and I know that I can pop in anytime and be welcomed in and step into this energetic of a consciousness that is so powerful and profound. So I want to just appreciate you and love you up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Yuri. Bertha, go ahead. Unmute yourself. Bertha, hello.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you because I usually pop in here and there. Paul, welcome back. And I just want to say to your wholeness and your health, peace and understanding that you are complete and also divine. I'm grateful to be a part of the service tonight, and also to say congratulations to Reverend Dr. Sunshine Michelle. We have acquaintance of times when you were down the hill during your studies or before all your studies in completion. But I am enamored by the ladies finding something so useful and such a tool on a daily basis to read and study and be a part of. I have found that my busyness seems to get away, and it's a time to stop and be in attunement with the spiritual journey of the divine that we all are. And so I say thank you for this, and hopefully at some point soon I'll be able to Zoom in person as opposed to calling in. So thank you, and blessings to everyone.
Thank you.
And Paul, you know me by being sometimes with Reverend E when she used to come up on the hill and speak on Wednesday night. So again, this is Bertha.
Well, thank you, Bertha. And just so you know, all is well. My result was that I'm healthy and whole and complete and perfect. So thank you.
Wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Wow. All right, everyone. What an amazing evening we have had. We do have some announcements that I'd like to share with you, so please stay on the line so that I can share the announcements. And afterwards, if you want to stop and talk with Dodie and Deborah, I'm sure they would welcome that as well. So Peter will get up our slides on the screen. All right. So as we have said before, we are celebrating Black History Month this month, and we do have a fantastic lineup of speakers. This coming Sunday, we will hear from Freddie Lambright III.
His mother twisted his arm.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think he might be related to someone special to us. He will be speaking on Inquiring Minds Want to Flow, Cosmonaut Consciousness, Afrofuturism as Spiritual Practice. I don't know about you, but I'm going to be in the center. And as our
I'm with you.
as our second Black History Month Sunday speaker, this will be Freddie. Freddie is an interdisciplinary, visual-based Black queer artist. He is a native of Oakland and an alum of Youth and Family at the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. Our meditation starts at 10 a.m. and the service starts at 10:30 a.m. Trying to get ahead of myself here. Next Wednesday, February 15th, Rev. Deb Hammond, will continue the discussion of Inquiring Minds Want to Flow. Deb is a practitioner with the Focus Ministry Authenticity Journey of Renewal. Our meditation on Wednesday begins at 6:30 and the service starts at 7 p.m. and is on Zoom. Now, remember to pick up your Season for Nonviolence daily readings in the foyer of the sanctuary on a Sunday, or you can download them from the Village News. It's never too late to embrace peace. And today's word is faith. Collect your items for the abundant blessings. Let's fill the barrel more than once this month. The list is in the Village News, on the barrel, and on the Nonprofit Partners page. Click on the About Us and go to the drop down for the Nonprofit Partners. For Black History Month, the Diversity Circle is presenting a book discussion on the 4 Pivots by Dr. Sean Ginwright. The discussion will be facilitated by practitioner emeritus Carmen West Jefferson and congregants, well, we heard from one tonight, Deborah Jackson and Crystal Fry. You can purchase the book at the bookstore, and the good news is there's a 30% off sale going on now. And this sale continues with a new focus: Black history books, as well as Valentine's Day heart books and merchandise. Now, remember to put CALM on your calendar. The Compassionate Attention to Loss meets the first Sunday of every month. And as always, for the information on all that's going on at the center, visit our website and sign up for our weekly newsletter, the Thursday Village News. And remember, you can follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook for special updates and content that you'll only find by liking and subscribing to OCSL. And our final slide for the evening for the announcements, this is our contact team. If you have any questions or need to know more about the center, you can reach out to these particular individuals. Now, I don't know about you, but I have been filled full this evening, and knowing that I am fully filled, it's our joyous giving time. So let's move into that, and we can give from the overflow. Our abundance affirmation is: joyously I give, with an attitude of abundance, knowing that as I give, I do receive. And so it is.
So it is. Amen.
Now, there are 5 ways to give. You can go to the website, click that donate button. We can give by credit card, by mail, by Zelle, text, or the offering basket on a Sunday service. Lots of ways to give. So this evening has been very rich, and I am grateful to our speakers, to Deborah Jackson and Dodie Chaney Fernandes. I'm grateful to the AV team that has helped support this process, Peter and Alice and Sabrina. And I'm grateful to Reverend Sunshine and the Center and Constance for making all of this possible. And I'm grateful for all of you who were here this evening to help us round out the service. And so now I'd like to turn it back over to Dodie for our closing prayer.
You're muted.
Mute yourself.
Okay. All right, everyone. This has been not only wonderful. I love sharing what we've learned with Dr. Diane, and Deborah and I have discussed this, and we were excited about being able to present. So I'm so happy that it was so well received, that we did say something that you heard or understood as to why we're so in love with the Dr. Dan Monday through Friday meeting. So let's take a breath and let it go. Giving thanks for having one life. That life is God, that's flowing through all things at all times. And that includes right here and right now. So joyously, I give thanks for having had a magnificent evening, a wonderful evening, a fun-filled evening, an uplifting evening. Knowing that as God moved through us, we all were able to absorb, retain, and reflect the goodness of God in our talks, in our thoughts, and in our presenting. God expressing in us, through us as a is all that there is. So I give thanks for a wonderful, wonderful evening. And as we go our separate ways, I know that we're surrounded, saturated, uplifted, guarded, guided, and directed in the right and perfect way for our highest and best. For this and so much more, I give thanks. I let it be so and affirm. So please affirm with me by saying, and so it is.
So
And so it is. Amen.
Amen.
So it is, amen.
So it is.
Have a blessed